are the manufacturing jobs? The good news seems to be that we've created 250,000 manufacturing jobs since 2010 in the last year and a half. But between 2000 and 2009, 15 of the nation's largest manufacturing sectors have seen declines in output. Textiles, 43%. Metal production, 27% decline. Cars, 18% decline. Machinery, 14% decline. 80% of the U.S. manufacturing economy is today performing worse than it was a decade ago. But it's not just our economy that's screwed, so are our workers. It's true that 250,000 manufacturing jobs have been created since 2010, but they're all paying much lower than they were before the recession. For example, Hoover Appliances is reopening a factory in Ohio that was shipped off to China in 2007. Before 2007, American workers at that plant made $20 an hour. Today, with the factory reopening, those workers are making $7.50 an hour. Most of them, if they have families, will now qualify for food stamps. So given this, how can we possibly expect to have a true job recovery without manufacturing? And of course, an essential part of any manufacturing is steel, among other things. With us, Leo Gerard, the president of the United Steelworkers Union. USW.org is the website. Mr. Gerard, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Tom. Great to be with you.
Thank you. It's so great to have you with us. First of all, your take on the state of manufacturing in the United States and for that matter, the state of steel.
Well, on the state of manufacture, I think it's in serious and desperate straits. And I think if we don't end up in the very near future, hopefully under this administration, getting a comprehensive manufacturing strategy, manufacturing is not going to continue to grow. And I think that there's a false dichotomy here when we say, well, manufacturing grew by 240,000 jobs in the last number of months. The reality is that we've lost almost 8 million jobs. The reality is that there's less people employed now in manufacturing than at any time since the Second World War. And a number of folks will say, well, that's because we're more productive. And I agree with that, the productivity part. But more than the productivity is literally the millions of jobs that we've lost to rotten trade deals and bad policy.
Well, in fact, that's part of the productivity. I mean, one of the big caveats on the government productivity numbers, and this goes back to the numbers being rejiggered, I believe it was during the Reagan administration, is that if a company with 1,000 employees in the United States lays off 500 employees and starts manufacturing those goods in China from a contractor, then even though they're doing the same amount of business, they're selling the same number of products, they've doubled their productivity in terms of government numbers. Because now they've got half as many workers producing the same number of products because you don't count the number of workers in China. And so, you know, it's almost a canard. I'm curious your thoughts on Richard Trumka's comments a couple days ago. The Democrats shouldn't take the support of labor for granted.
I totally agree with Rich. In fact, it's something that we've discussed at the AFL-CIO Executive Committee. And Rich is saying it the way it is. And what we're going to do is we're not going to look at whether we support the D triple this and the D triple that on all the various committees. We're going to look at individuals. And to be honest, the Steelworkers Union, we started that in 1994. Yeah. After we saw the Gingrich gang up on working people, and we had spent tons of membership money. And after the election was over, there was no residual benefit. The Democrats ran for the hills. We didn't have membership involvement. The members weren't as informed about what just happened as they should have been. So we decided we would quit giving money to the various campaigns, and we would support individual members of the House and Senate at both the state and the federal level. And we've ended up with a much more informed membership. For example, in the Obama election, we had 11,000 volunteers.
Wow.
We don't know how to put a value on that because people give their time. They work on weekends. They work after work. They do stuff. But what it did tell us is that our members knew what the issues were.
Yeah, and that's very significant and very important. We're talking with Leo Gerard, the president of the United Steelworkers Union, USW.org. If I could just shift topics a little bit, but I think this is apropos of the whole thing. We are now hearing this whole thing with this guy who, Mr. Strauss-Kahn, who is alleged to have raped this maid in the Sofitel in New York. A journalist, a fairly high-profile and powerful female journalist in France has now come forward and said, yes, he did the same thing to me. And other women are coming forward and saying this. But the question is, why did this woman at the Sofitel in New York feel that she had the power to take on one of the world's most powerful men? And it turns out it's because she had a union. And her union had negotiated a deal with that hotel. She's a member of actually one of the more powerful unions in New York City that had negotiated a deal with the hotel that if any of their employees brought forth sexual harassment charges against guests of the hotel, they could not be fired. Right. And I mean, is it, when we look back at, you mentioned manufacturing policy and unions, we haven't had a significant manufacturing policy in the United States since the Reagan administration. We haven't, and Reagan kicked off this war on labor, and we've seen, the consequences of this over 30 years, not just the decimation of organized labor, but the decimation of the American middle class. Is this, what's it going to take for Americans to figure out that whether you're a maid or whether you are, making steel in a steel mill, that a union is really the thing that's the only thing that really protects you from abuse of power and wealth? For at least a generation, maybe more, I would go back to sort of the Jimmy Carter days and the erosion, the attack by the right wing, and the attack on collective bargaining, and starting to use the term, labor bosses and whatnot, the right. Caricatures of the labor movement. The fact of the matter is that a trade union does a heck of a lot more than simply negotiate a contract. I mean, that's important. But a trade union gives workers in their workplace a voice in how their work will be organized, a voice in what they do, give them an opportunity to play a role collectively in the community. And it's a basic function of a democracy. If you look at any totalitarian regime of the left or the right over the last 30 years that has been overthrown, it's always been overthrown by a group of workers who wanted free, independent unions. Sure.
And what we've seen in America, and people may not know this, the application of the labor laws in America make it either the second worst or the third worst labor laws in this hemisphere. Worse than Colombia and possibly worse than Mexico, depending on how Mexico interprets its laws at given times.
Wow.
So it's an embarrassment. It should be an embarrassment to the country. America's rate of unionization has been in constant decline, not because workers don't want a union, but because the rules have made it next to impossible for workers to join a union.
Well, and it's a billion-dollar industry busting unions and preventing them.
The only country, well, I shouldn't be that narrow, the only two countries where professional union busting is recognized as a career is United States and Canada. And in the United States, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry right. that people go out and smear and tell basic lies about what a trade union does.
Right, or threaten them. Hey, if you unionize, we're going to move your job. We're going to move the factory to South Carolina or to China or whatever.
Or if you're Boeing, what you say is that we're going to move your work to South Carolina because you've exercised your right to collective bargaining and you've exercised your right to withhold your work until right. we get a collective agreement. And now Boeing says they believe that under their interpretation that they can walk backwards.
Right, and it absolutely seems like that's what Boeing is up to. Leo Gerard, the president of the United Steelworkers Union, USW.org. Keep up the great work, sir.
You too, Tom. I love your show. I listen to it all the time in my car.
Oh, well, thank you very much, and thanks so much for coming on. You always have an open door here. Leo Gerard, USW.org.